Welcome, I'm Eric with Vast Strength. In this video, I'm going to do a brief discussion regarding what I call Chimera Bench that I'm sitting on, which is a bench that I cobbled together from multiple pieces of equipment. Use this at your own risk. One of the things that I really feel strongly we need more of is ladder style benches. We don't have enough ladder style benches, we need more. We also need more videos about rubber horse style mats. There's just not enough of those to cover the bases. And this is sarcasm for those of you that are unaware. Where I'm going with that is, I just feel like when you go, for instance, to Home Gym Con, which is worth your time, it's outstanding, it's great. And there is a ton of innovation, but there's also a just vast sea, as far as your eye can see, of sameness. There's just utter sameness. Sometimes probably even the exact same product, just branded in two different ways. So don't get me wrong, you can make a good ladder bench and you can make a bad ladder bench. Yeah, totally can happen. But to some degree, a ladder bench is a ladder bench is a ladder bench. I don't know how many different brands and how many different companies we need to have produce a ladder bench. Now, there are some innovative benches out there, and I'd really compliment, like for instance, Prime Fitness, Exponent Edge have done some interesting things with their benches. You have Ironmaster, which has their bench that's very interesting. You also have, for instance, which I wouldn't consider it your typical bench, but it's the Hyper Pro bench. And by the way, I have no financial relationship with anybody. Don't I wish I did, but other than my wife, I have, or maybe I should say my wife has a financial relationship with me. But otherwise, I don't have any kind of incentive to speak highly of anybody or to speak poorly of anybody. This is just kind of off the cuff and just how I feel about things. But I will give a shout out to GetRx. Basically, what GetRx is doing is they're doing lots of things that allows a lot of modularity and a lot of ability to customize it to kind of work in your gym, which, mind-blowing, something to work in our gym. Regardless, I just think that the world would benefit from a little bit more innovation and also a little bit more modularity and maybe a little bit more commonality. And what I mean is Ironmaster has a lot of interesting stuff. They have a very cool ecosystem. Their bench equipment, I think it pretty much lives in their ecosystem. And correct me if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments if that's not correct. But I think largely, they've got some cool stuff, but it largely kind of lives, again, in their world, right? Like it doesn't live in other worlds. It's like it's not going to work with the, Rep or Rogue or other types of things. So now you might even say, well, Eric, I've seen your bench. You got just a standard Rep ladder bench. And the answer is, yeah, I do. Honestly, it's not what I probably would have bought if I had. When I bought my bench, I probably would have I was very interested in the Ironmaster bench. It just simply wasn't available at that time. So, and I like my bench. Again, I don't want to make it sound too negative. I think ladder style benches are great. There's a reason they're so popular. Again, I would just like to see a little bit more innovation, a little bit more newness. With that in mind, kind of what am I getting at? One of the big things is, if any of you have kids, or if you don't have kids, you probably are aware, the concept of having a crib that then becomes toddler bed. So I guess what I'm talking about here is we're talking about baby's first bench, all right? So I like the idea of baby's first bench. Oh, we've got baby's first bench. And now we're gonna turn baby's first bench into the strong bench, the big boy bench, right? Or big girl bench, whatever. But you get the point, right? I like the idea of having something that is more foundational. And that's something you're gonna probably hear me just harp on a ton. And in past videos and in future videos is the concept of being foundational equipment. Now, maybe people don't want, maybe companies or the marketplace doesn't want things to be foundational. Maybe because I think when I think of foundational, I think something that you get and then it can grow with you in your gym. And it serves as kind of like this bedrock that you can just be like, I'm gonna build my home gym around this product or around these products. But I think the idea of something being foundational kind of means it's not going to be something you're going to upgrade real quick either, right? And I understand that's probably not ideal for companies. So it's not ideal for places to make money. And hey, all the businesses are there to make money, so I get it. But it'd be nice if you have something that could maybe grow with you. And I'm not even sure if I completely have wrapped my head around whatever concept I'm talking about. But what I'm getting at is something that, okay, now I buy it as my first bench, but then you know what, because of its modularity, I can kind of change things up and use it in a different way when I decide I want to upgrade and get the big Mama Jama bench that's, you know, made so I can, you know, bench 1,000 pounds. I guess I want the bench also to have the ability to be both more of something that can be an accessory bench, meaning not function just as a bench, both in being an accessory piece in your home gym, but also being able to theoretically be a only piece in your home gym. What I mean is, let's say you had a very small area that you could have, you know, gym equipment. You live in an apartment and you just don't have the space, so that your bench could be your kind of your centerpiece that you can work around. And again, I think, for instance, Iron Master, I think, has some things, is a good example of trying to do that. Long story short, something that can either function beyond just being something that you do incline press, bench press, you know, and military press in. Just has a little bit more functionality. I'd love to see Baby's First Bench. Please, somebody go out there, design Baby's First Bench. Please bring some modularity to things. Make something that people could use at home that, you know, is also not just designed for your ecosystem. You know, it'd be nice to be able to have something that is made so that it could be, you know, people could produce attachments for different equipment, just like people do for power racks. And the beauty of that is because then when you have your power rack and it's just kind of your standard power rack, it's awesome to be able to go to different companies so that you can choose to get the attachment that speaks to you, and that you're not forced to live in their ecosystem just because you bought their power rack or you bought their bench. I think that's enough of a rant about that. If you expected to get anything practical out of this, I apologize. Probably nothing was provided. Those are just my thoughts in regards to maybe things I'd like to see moving forward. Maybe gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the things that I'm trying to do with this Chimera bench here. When we talk about this bench, I kind of jokingly and lovingly call it my Chimera bench. If you don't know what a chimera is, it's a mythological Greek creature which I believe had the body of a lion. There's different variations, but I think had like the body of a lion and the head of a goat and the tail of a snake. And essentially it's a bunch of things kind of mashed together. And in kind of the modern world or science world, when we're talking about chimeras, you know, one of the common ways you'll see that is, for instance, biological entities that have maybe DNA or genetics from two different species. And that can happen either artificially, but can be done naturally as well. We're talking about why I call this Chimera bench. This is a combination of multiple different pieces. And I'm going to try to hopefully remember to say all the different pieces and really give you know, the proper due to the people who are producing them. This is not something that I made. This is just something that I've cobbled together. Let's get to this. First, let's discuss what serves as a skeleton for this Chimera bench. And that is a Valor Fitness heavy-duty incline bench. So that's what the main base is here. What you'll see is this is made with ballpark 3-inch tubular steel. I believe it's actually metric, not imperial, but I could be wrong. And with 1-inch holes. These are not your standard 2 inches apart, and they are inline, not offset. This Valor Fitness bench has done well for me in regards to what I'm trying to do, but I will say I wish there was some other option. If people out in the world know of other options that might do a similar thing, where it's made in a similar fashion, that would allow placing all this different modularity and attachments to it, please let me know. I did do a lot of searching before I purchased it. And in fact, I remember when I came across it, and I think it was something that I think it was something new. I literally was just, you know, I was so excited, and I just had to run out and get it. Maybe there's more out there and I'm just missing them, but I'm not aware of them. So the basic skeleton is, again, this Valor Fitness heavy duty bench that has the 1-inch holes. And that was the big thing I needed. That was kind of the key component for me to do this. I did not put this together though in the standard way. So again, use at your own risk. This is me modifying the equipment. Definitely keep your own safety in mind. What I did was I took the, as you can see here, the piece here that would normally go on the most front part of the bench, I essentially just turned that around. So it's facing, instead of towards the front, it's facing towards the back. And then I did not install pretty much any of the rest of the equipment. So including the back bench. The nice thing is it will just kind of sit flat without having to do anything special. what do I build upon it? Well, you can see here I have the Exponent Edge Infinity Arm. If you've seen any of my videos, you see I use this a lot. I think it's a fantastic product. Exponent Edge has a lot of innovative products, a lot of cool things to check out. This is, again, a very flexible piece. As you can see, the arm, you can adjust it very easily, so you can put it, wherever you want in space. So I really appreciate that flexibility. And of course, then you can move the pad here in any direction. This is one key component. And then I would say the other two key components would be the Stray Dog Strength GOAT attachment. All right, that's what you see here. If you watch any of my other videos, you know this is something I use now for my leg extension, leg curl tower. And in fact, I had to take it off of that. Originally, my concept with this bench also was that it could serve as a storage point for things like the Infinity Arm, like the GOAT attachment, when I wasn't using them. So that was another concept I had, which was trying to make it so that pieces of equipment that can essentially be utilized even when they're basically in storage mode, so to speak. That's changed a little bit for me because I like my setup so much with my GOAT attachment for doing my leg curls and leg extensions now that this essentially lives permanently over in that area. So it's kind of a tricky thing where I'm kind of trying to decide whether direction I'm going to go with this. Is there a different product or something else I want to do or something I want to custom make? I'm not sure on that. But this has served very well for me up till now. So the benefit of this GOAT attachment for the purposes of this is that it can, you can lock it in different areas, and so you can adjust it and do things at different angles. The other key component of that is the Darko Thresher Pad that you see here. I recently did a review discussing this along with some other Darko products. This thresher pad is another key component because it essentially serves as your seat or, again, a chest support and whatever have you. The other thing that's attached to the GOAT attachment is the leg roller. Specifically, this is the Nordstick leg roller, and it has the ability to both be placed in a manner like this where there's padding on both sides, although you can also place it so that it sticks out just in one direction only. The next thing I want to discuss is that because the hole distances on this Valor bench are not typical what you would see, for instance, with a power rack, making these attachments fit is a little bit fiddly, and it does require not exactly perfect type of fit. What I did though is essentially I attached the Exponent Edge Infinity Arm with a bolt at the bottom, and this can be adjusted as needed. I find that I tend to just leave it in place though. And then I'm able to keep it in place with using two of the short bells of steel magnetic pins. And so I put one actually on each side. The reason I have to do that, I have to do that at the same level as where I put in the bolt, which is not necessarily ideal, but doing that does allow a little bit more stability on the piece of equipment. Now, it's not as stable 100% as I would like, but it's pretty good. I mean, I definitely feel confident on it. Would I like it to be a little different? Yeah. And again, if the holes lined up, it would be a lot more solid, but it just kind of is what it is. But it is quite good, and it works. It's just not ideal. Similarly, with the GOAT attachment, there are some things that maybe I would prefer to be a little different, but it actually lines up a little bit better. So you are able to put in a pin, a full-size 1-inch pin through the attachment and into the bench. In addition, also using a smaller 5/8 pin below it, which does provide just slightly more just stability with it. Now, I might end up ultimately, depending on what I do, changing things up a little bit. You'll notice this does have quite a bit of wiggle in it. Now, it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, it's not going to fall off. But if I had my preferences, I'd actually probably get this a little bit more kind of solid. And there's ways I could do that. I just haven't really done it because I'm not really sure I'm going to use this permanently here. So, well, actually, I know I'm not using this piece permanently here. It's going permanently on my leg extension leg curl machine. So, but that's just a thought. It does have a little bit of play in the system, but again, I find it safe to use. The other thing's probably worth mentioning, again, as I have a number of different mag pins, I do want to mention that the mag pins you see here that have my logo on them, these are actually Fringe Sport mag pins. I really like these mag pins, they're good. And then I'm also going to give a shout out to the original Exponent Edge in magnetic pins, which has by far a better design on the head, or the piece you're going to grab onto. But I've had some issues with some of the magnets coming loose. Not much, but enough that when I was going to go buy a bunch of pins, I decided to buy a bunch of these, even though I think they are inferior in regards to the head itself. So I just think this is much more pleasant to grasp, maneuver, but so be it. I essentially use the fringe pins mainly. Now you'll notice I do have different colors. I have purple and the black. And the reason behind the purple and the black is I basically standardized that all of my purple mag pins are 5/8 inch mag pins, and all of my black and blue mag pins are 1 inch mag pins. So just makes it a little bit easier to grab things quickly, be efficient when I'm doing it. A couple other small things to note. I did put a handle on the back here, and also you'll see that there's some weights on the back with a kind of a dual horn here with the weight plates. Now that dual horn is actually a Amazon product in regards to the horns themselves, but then I bought a long threaded bolt so that I could essentially each one of them came as a separate piece with its own bolt, and then I bought a separate threaded bolt so that I could essentially have it so that it's a dual horn on the same hole. I don't know if that makes sense or not, and then I do have some weights there. They basically just serve to help provide a little bit of extra resistance to the bench sliding or moving, and including if I do decide to store it upright, which again, I would use caution doing it in your own home gym. The other thing I did add with this though is this handle, which I did different things to attach it, but I think the easiest thing is I'm using one of the surplus strength mag pins that has a attachment for placing essentially a carabiner, and essentially I just put a spare D handle that I had in that spot. The reason I did that is because I found that very frequently when I was moving the bench in the back just to kind of get it aligned well, that the piece there is fairly uncomfortable for your hands and your fingers, and I was noticing I was kind of like, boy, that's really irritating my fingers. And I have just gentle baby hands in regards to my skin. So I don't want to make them any more callous than I have to. So I did place a D handle, and it just makes it easier for me to pick up and move it and adjust it from the back. That is my Chimera Bench. After this sign off, I will include some further footage demonstrating different lifts and exercises that I perform using this bench. If you found the information and content provided in this video to be at all helpful or entertaining, please consider liking and subscribing. And as always, get strong, be smart, stay safe. Thanks for watching.